So, go ahead. With the quorum present, I'd like to call this meeting of the Co-op Budget Committee to order at 6:40 p.m. This is a regular meeting for the Co-op Budget Committee for the month of May. The agenda was posted in advance as required. I'd like to introduce myself, Darlene Mann, and the Budget Committee members who are present this evening, which include Tom Solon, Tom Enright, Raul Blanchet, and Matt McGuire. Dave Blinn, Brian Rader, and Tom Whalen have excused absences this evening. I'd like to introduce our BA Kelly Seeley, who will be participating tonight, and invite you all to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You gonna sing?
Hmm?
Gonna sing?
And find the agenda. So we'll move. I'll ask if there are any agenda adjustments this evening. Seeing none, I'll appoint Raul as the process observer meeting observer for tonight. And since this is our first meeting since the district meeting, we will reorganize as per kind of our, the way we reorganize after the election. I'd like to welcome back Tom Enright, representing Hollis, who won his seat in the last cycle, and Brian Rader, who won his seat for Brookline, but as I mentioned, has an excused absence for this evening. And would like to thank Tony Stinizzi for the 3 years he served here with the Budget Committee. He was a member in good standing, and appreciated his input over the time that he served the committee. So at this time, we'll be looking for recommendations or nominations for the chair and vice chair. We've kind of bypassed the secretary for the last few years and kind of managed those duties. As necessary, Don McMillan does all of our minutes, and we really haven't had a need for a secretary to manage kind of other things along the way, and we've kind of made do without for the last couple of years.
Phew. Phew.
Yeah, usually it
I
goes
know
to the
the
new
rules.
guy, Tom, so.
She does a great job.
Don does do a fantastic job, and appreciate the diligence with which she manages to summarize everything that gets done in all of these meetings, so. At this time, I'll look for a motion for the chair.
You want the honors, Tom?
I make a motion to promote Darlene Mann to be our chair for another year.
I'll second.
Can we do both at once?
We could certainly do that.
I'll move Raul as vice chair.
Okay, so, okay.
Oh, is
Well,
that,
since he made the motion, do you want to withdraw the motion, and Tom, you make the complete
I'll
motion?
withdraw the motion.
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay,
Appreciate that.
I'll Darlene as chair and Raul as vice chair.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion for myself as chair and Raul as vice chair? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's unanimous. I love that, thank you very much. Look forward to another year,
Excellent.
seeing
Thank you
the
very much
committee
for the
forward.
support.
Appreciate it. I did forward earlier, because we didn't meet in March, we didn't meet in April, I had to really kind of think about what the last set of things we needed to approve, set of minutes we needed to approve. And they went back to February, so I'm not sure if people had a time to review the minutes that I sent out. I also included the annual meeting minutes. They don't require our approval, they were just there, just kind of for, an informational document, because we'll be just doing a quick little district meeting overview. So if people feel comfortable moving forward with approving the February minutes, there are 2 sets, one from the meeting and one from the public hearing. So if we,
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February.
okay. Okay, is there a
Second.
second? Great.
I have two suggested amendments.
Okay. And these are to the meeting minutes?
Yes, and they're just
Meeting minutes?
typographical,
Okay.
they're not content. page 8, line 25,
Okay,
last word, change form, F-O-R-M, to from, F-R-O-M.
okay,
And the other, I don't have the line on it, but if Dawn does a search, there was an instance where she failed to capitalize my name.
okay, we'll capitalize Mr. Solon.
Just for the record, typically, we receive the draft meeting minutes about, say, a week to 2 weeks prior to the next meeting.
Yep.
And I personally usually go through with track changes, and I've requested that we get the document in Word file, type file, and we do track changes that way. I recommend that all of us try to do that collectively, so that way it makes it easier for us to review and approve. And maybe we can have a sidebar discussion regarding perhaps using a tool like some sort of internet sharing so that we can automatically see what everybody else is suggesting. So for
Alright.
future reference, we might want to just adjust how we review meeting minutes. So
Th-
by the time we come to the meeting, we're ready to go.
That assumes we get them
Yeah,
ahead of time.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so they were probably distributed back in February.
Right.
But again, with the district meeting and us not meeting, we kind of had that, kind of gap in reviewing them. So, because Dawn is very efficient with turning them around, but, we can think about
I
those
would
changes.
suggest approving with the amendments, yeah.
Mhm.
That's amended.
Yep,
I'll
okay,
make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended by Tom.
okay. Can you second that?
Second.
Matt? Great. Okay, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from February as recommended and amended? Okay, that's 4-0.
Abstain.
Abstaining, Mr. Emery. And now for the meeting minutes from the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as created from the public meeting.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Any questions, comments, changes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the public hearing minutes? 4. Opposed? Abstention?
Abstain.
Thank
It was
you.
funny, reading through the minutes, I'm thinking, she made a mistake on, again, because she talked about member, man, he. And then I remembered, oh yeah, it was a joint meeting.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. Okay, seeing no public, we will move right into the general business.
Are you required to have the 30 minutes of public input like a school board is?
No, that's only
Okay.
for school boards. I certainly wouldn't mind it, but it isn't required
No, I
at
didn't,
this
I didn't
point.
know, because we have to go through and we have to open it and keep it open for 30
Yeah.
minutes even if there's nobody there.
Yeah.
To account for someone coming in at the last minute and saying a couple of words? Really?
Yep, it's required by RSA now.
Mhm. Mhm. I think that was passed about a year ago.
Couple of years.
Yeah, a year or two ago. Okay, so even though we just started late, we seem to be just about on schedule with, based on the timeline in the agenda. And I've noted as the first item a district meeting review and budget planning. So this is really just an opportunity to talk about, remind everybody what we passed way back in March as FY25 gets underway starting July 1st. And just talk through is an opportunity to talk about what we think went well, what we would like to improve on, maybe areas of focus into the upcoming year, and talk about at this point if we recognize any budget planning issues as we consider FY26, the FY26 budget in the fall. So as a reminder, we adopted a budget of $30,898,845, which included the fourth year of a HESA contract, third year?
I-
Fourth,
the
yes.
Fourth year of the HESA contract, $1.2 million HEA contract, the school operating budget of just over $28 million, $1.2 million SAU budget, a facilities maintenance trust of $300,000, and a contingency fund of $125,000. The non-appropriating articles, which included rescinding the retained fund balance, amending the articles of agreement, and adopting SB2, all were petition articles that failed. So, with that in mind, I didn't know if anyone had any, input again on, what we thought went particularly well, something we should consider as topics as we move to the new year.
I was a member of the audience for those meetings, and I thought that meeting, and I thought the school board and the budget committee did an excellent job of of making the meeting go in presentation, so I was very happy with that. I have one thought. I don't know if anybody would be supportive of it, but I come to a meeting, and I think most people do, to hear the school board and budget committee's agenda, not petition warrant articles agenda, as my primary purpose. So I wasn't happy that that the petition warrant article moved to the front of the line, took an hour and a half, while we had all kinds of parents there and old people there cooling their heels and not doing the business that I wanted to get to. So my thought is, the last rule, and I didn't bring it in, that Drew presents, is moving the articles, and it requires a simple majority. I don't think that there's any statutory basis for that. I would propose that rule be a supermajority of 60%, for the reasons I stated. I want to do the business of the business of the people I elected, rather than petition warrant articles as my first order.
Okay, I'm just looking through really quickly.
It's the last rule.
Yeah.
So in theory, that rule could be adopted by Drew, the moderator of the meeting, if people were to propose it. But I agree with you. I think, to me, I think the business of the meeting should be addressed first, and then any other business could be added later.
I mean, you could always change it from the floor, but the more efficient way of doing it would be to convince, if the school board were interested and the budget committee were interested, to convince Drew to present it in that form, because I think, and I may be wrong here, that that's a random decision. I don't think it's a decision based on statutory basis.
Okay, so I can take, I agree that some of the things that just frustrate me in the process are the number of signatures required to get a petition article added to the warrant, and then that's compounded by the issue you just brought up about how it proceeds to the front of the meeting ahead of the business that the board and the budget committee have been working on diligently for several months. So I appreciate that frustration. What I can do in the interim is, Tom, you can take that back to the school board, and I can reach out to our moderator, Drew Mason, and see if there's anything that would, prevent that from moving forward, just so that we're sure it isn't, it's a change that's easily made, and see if it's something both boards are interested in pursuing.
I'm just, so the change that you're proposing is that it requires a supermajority in order to move articles?
Yes.
And that's any article, correct?
Well, yeah, the rule is to move articles, so yes, it would have to apply to any articles. I mean, maybe you could draft one just for petition warrant articles, but I think that's getting a little nasty. I just, the school board and the budget committee set the agenda, and they set it for a reason. I mean, they think it through, and why should I want to avoid the work that those elected people put into that agenda and the order of the agenda?
The only thing that I will point out, and I'm not saying that that it actually even impacts the goodness or badness of it, is that frequently the order that they get submitted done somewhat prematurely. So there's often reasons to reorder it, particularly, the biggest situation is if there is an article that people believe will be a criteria for their voting for, one that's positioned earlier, and they want to reorder them. And I don't think that a rationale like that would be opposed, whereas I think the ones that you're bringing up are ones that have some greater controversy to their movement.
On the other hand, you can make a case for his ruling that since it is the business of the meeting, the families that have limited amount of time and are there can address their business, their interest, and then any other business that can be brought up can be handled by other folks. you know?
The argument that's usually used successfully to move them is that it's going to require an hour of vote, and you want to give the people a chance to get the outcome of it if it's going to impact stuff. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other because I'm there for the duration. But I understand it, and I'm certainly, I'll bring this forward and see if there is an opinion on it, but that shouldn't impact your
Yeah, I mean,
discussion with the moderator to see if it's something that the moderator
Mhm.
would support as well.
I think the amount of time, I should have brought my notes, I think the amount of time we spent just talking about moving the article and discussing that first article took over an hour and a half, if I recall correctly. Definitely took more than an hour. It took us a long time to get to the business of the meeting. And that is incredibly frustrating. And again, while I appreciate, that certain votes take an hour and things like that, we're there to discuss and pass
Budgets.
budgets,
Yeah.
a significant
Yeah.
commitment from the communities. And I think that, I agree that that's where,
Another argument in
attention should
favor
be.
of what Tom is proposing is that, and we experienced this at the Brookline deliberative session, petition warrant articles are not vetted by legal before being created. And we had a 4-hour deliberative session in Brookline, 75% of which was devoted to the petition warrant articles because there was so much dispute as to were they legal, how was this wording chosen, and that's part of what you always face with a
yeah.
with the petition warrant articles. So yeah, they are extremely time-consuming and in some cases disruptive and discouraging to the voting public. Personally, this is just my suspicion. I think that some of them are intentionally brought forward for the sole purpose of making the meeting hard to stand.
And that's part of what I'm fighting
Yep.
for, is a meeting that can be stood.
Tolerated.
And part of it is my own realization that I can't go to 4 or 5 hour meetings anymore. It's very difficult for me to.
Yep.
So,
Yep. No, I'm on board with you.
I think I would be in favor with the idea, in part because I tend to be more focused on content being more important than process. And typically the articles that I brought up are process oriented rather than content specific to the business at hand.
Yeah, I'm good for it. I agree with that too.
Yeah.
I mean, because you still have the mechanism there to move things if you have to. So I think putting the bar a little higher is a good thing.
I
So-
would say one of the other items that prolonged the meeting were the number of speakers to many of the questions. So, and the way the moderators handle speakers at the microphones once a question's been moved has differed by community over the years. I think we have a moderator who is fair to all sides, and, you know, I'm not sure in the past, I might be confusing Drew with Jim Belanger and how town meetings have gone, but I know specifically in town meetings in Hollis, once a question was moved, everyone else online had to sit down, and it was done, and nobody else got to speak to the question. Drew's approach at the co-op has been to allow anyone online to continue speaking, and what happened several times during our last meeting was that after a reasonable amount of time and opinions on either side were presented, and someone moved the question, there were as many as 20 people online behind that person, and if everyone gets 3 minutes to speak, that's an hour, that's an hour's worth of time to listen to people provide input. Again, not that it isn't worthwhile, but, you know, there had been significant discussion already, so it is not unheard of for moderators to say, once the question's moved and there's been a fair amount of debate on either side, the rest of the people online have to sit down. That moves the meeting along as well. I'm not, again, if that's part of the rules of the meeting that get put forward, great, but I'm not sure how people feel, and, you know, I'm not trying to tell Drew how to run a meeting, but,
Yeah, we are.
you know, well, we are, it is, yeah, but, you know, just,
But
if we are trying to keep it, you know, moving, I mean, I appreciate the input of the people who take the time to go to the microphone. We've heard about some of these petition articles for 10 years, and I don't think there's an argument yet that we haven't heard. So I'm not sure if it's something, you know, that Drew would, you know, if we think it needs to go that way, if we put it into a set of meeting rules, and you know, the legislative body can come in and say, nope, we want everyone online to be able to speak. Like I said, I've seen it work both ways. I'm not sure if that's something people are interested in considering, asking, entertaining, or maybe asking Drew to come to talk about how he determines the rules or things like that, if anybody thinks that would be.
The last thing you said, I think, is the critical point. And that is, the motion to move the question these days becomes almost a rubber stamp. It's almost a joke that Webb Scales and I vote no, and maybe a couple of other people, but everyone else votes yes. Why do you want to keep it going? I think that if the rule was, if the motion passes, you sit down, people would take that vote more seriously as to, have we heard enough, or do we want more? And it would give the legislative body the option of curtailing what they feel is a non-value conversation, or voting to support it. So I would like to revert back to the, I remember as well, the earlier case that if you move the question and the motion passes, you've moved the question.
Was that Jim Murphy? Did he used to do that when he was the moderator? That was a long time ago.
Yes, I do remember that as well.
Was I born
don't know
then?
if
At
it
the
was-
co-op?
I don't remember where, but I do remember meetings where it's
That's a
been
long
like
time
that.
ago.
Yeah, Jim Murphy was a
Yeah.
long time ago. And in Brookline has the moderator
It's
there's been
evolved.
pretty,
It's been Peter Webb for
a long time.
ever since Eddie Arnold's grandfather.
Several decades.
It was,
Yeah.
I don't know if his name was Tom. It was I think Tom Arnold, but I don't know if I'm confusing that with Roseanne's husband, ex-husband. But, but when I first, the early meetings that I went to, which was my first experience with the town meeting format, so it was either Brookline school meetings or Brookline town meetings, because I wasn't coming to the co-op when I first moved in. That was the rule.
So how should we handle this? Should we have, if the school board's interested, should they invite us to a meeting with Drew so we have one conversation? Or is that too cumbersome, or
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think one conversation would be easier
Probably, yeah.
and quicker than a lot
Yeah,
of back and forth.
what I would possibly suggest is, bring it up to the board.
To you,
See the school board, see if there's support for reviewing these aspects of it. If there is, talk to Drew and coordinate with Darlene to do it at a school board meeting
Yeah.
with the members of the budget committee invited.
Yeah,
You like that?
yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
That's fine,
Mhm.
that's fine. Yeah, any way we can improve the meeting efficiency, I mean, in a larger scale, something I've always thought about as well, and has nothing to do with Drew in this case, is how to address, changing the requirements for submitting petition warrant articles.
Yeah, that's a state
That
thing.
has a more of a, that's a legislative,
Yeah.
impact, because it is an RSA that it's like 2% or 25 signatures, whichever is, less. And I don't know that there's an appetite to, and I understand, the 25 signatures in small communities, up north and things, that's, a
The
significant
RSA
amount,
allows it to be
but,
as few as 10,
oh, really?
based on population, yeah.
Wow. It just feels like, and I'm not sure
Is there a
if the rules should change in cooperative districts, that you require signatures from each community, or something like that, just something that raises the bar a
I think it
little
should be a
bit.
a percentage of registered voters, not a
In composite.
fixed number, because 25 is the cap.
Yep, mm-hmm,
I also think that in the limit, if we had a perfect process, and we had 100% support by the population, then that would totally diminish the need to add amendments, right?
Well, if let's say you had perfect attendance and you had a voting population of 10,000, and they all showed up, doesn't it seem absurd that 25 people can hijack the meeting?
Right.
That's what the state
Well, I would
currently
not use
allows.
the word hijack, but that it actually could initiate this amendment process
It's
to the,
not an
to
amendment.
the agenda.
Well, it's
I'm
not-
using the word amendment, I mean a change to the agenda.
Well, it's addition, they can bring petition warrant articles, and a very, very small portion of the electorate can dramatically affect the meeting, to the point where they can bring in, if they wanted to, 50 petition warrant articles, and in an SB2 environment, there's nothing you can do to negate them. At least in our meeting, you can move to,
that's true.
to, what's the correct word? It's not table, it's,
Postpone
oh,
indefinitely or.
pass over,
Pass over, table,
yeah.
That's true, anything in an SB2 community, it has to get added to
Yeah,
the ballot.
so what happens is, on the SB2 ballots, it's hard finding the stuff that's the meat, as you call it, because in some cases, it's buried in multiple pages of long petition warrant articles.
And I think the other frustrating thing is too, is like here we have our meeting monthly, the board has its meeting monthly, there's an opportunity for public input, and if any of the issues in those petition warrant articles came up, they could be brought before either or both entities at any point in a year for boards to consider, for boards to take input and possibly,
Which
come up
is
with
the
presentations
appropriate
later
process.
about why
Right.
we address it or
In
don't.
fairness,
I know
they do
it's
and
a
they
perfect-
have.
right.
They do and they have, and this is the recourse that's available. It is as the votes, in fact, bear out, these have been minority viewpoints, for the most part, with the notable exception of the original passage of SB2 in Brookline. But for the most part, they've been things that have been brought up, because most of them are things like cutting budget, or cutting the budget, or cutting the budget, or getting people unable to spend money.
Okay, so we have some direction.
Sorry, that was
No,
a
that's
little more
okay.
lengthy
No,
than.
it was no, it's a good
But-
discussion.
but
It's
you do
something I
bring up
think
a
we've all
point
been
is-
thinking and not really thought about how do we address it now as opposed to when we're thinking about it in January or February as the meeting is approaching. Just a way to make the meeting efficient, still meet all the, requirements and things that it has to, give everybody their fair say, give the legislative body an opportunity to, present their input, but still run efficiently and effectively to be able to do that. And I think all of the districts independently, whether you're at the Hollis School District, the Brookline School District, Brookline Town, or Hollis Town meeting, there are some pretty efficient meetings that are held every cycle consistently. I would say maybe town meetings go a little bit longer, but the other districts, especially the Hollis School District, runs pretty efficiently and effectively. And if Hollis is half of the co-op and Brookline's meeting, despite a long maybe deliberative session because of some of the issues that were brought forward, I mean, it's still, as individual communities, we can run efficient and effective meetings, so we'd like to bring that to the co-op, so that
One of
we
the
add that to the list.
questions that I have about the prep for the meeting, when the budget committee took positions on the professional staff contract, and there was a majority vote not supporting it. The majority of the reasoning that I heard was not so much opposition to what was being used as support for it, but a real concern that the cost structure was not one that would either be supported or that was appropriate to ask of the taxpayers. And I'm wondering, for people who just think it's a bad contract, I'm not challenging that. But for people who were hesitant to support it because of their concern for the public's viewpoint, in light of the outcome, is there any change in the thought process or the evaluation of it?
No, I kind of view like our roles, it's a different lens than the school board. I view our roles more fiscally, financially from the, looking out for the budget and the taxes, which is a little bit different from the school board, because you're probably
Yeah.
more involved in, staff and, that type of stuff. So it is a different viewpoint, I think, that from the budget committee view versus like a school board view on something like that.
I think your
So-
point is, since it was overwhelmingly supported, would we reconsider?
Not even,
Whether-
it just that what
Well,
was that an
I-
impact?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Matt that we do look at it through a different lens, and, at the time of the next contract, we don't know where the economy will be, and we don't know what the impact of budgets leading up to it will be on the taxpayer, so I just think it's always something that I think we just tend to have a more conservative approach to the impact that a budget is gonna have on the taxpayers. And I think given just individual roles in our communities and who we're speaking with, I mean, there are plenty of people who maybe didn't go to the meeting and weren't there to cast a vote and are going to be affected by what got passed. So definitely the people present supported it, but there were a lot of the voting population that wasn't present, and they're going to have an impact in their tax bill.
Okay, thank you.
Which arrived today in the mail.
Oh, did it?
Yes.
Oh, boy. I'm sure those conversations will heat up.
Yeah, I did have one question comment meeting related. So I know a lot of ballot votes, per RSA or whatever has the 1 hour, where it has to stay open. I know several people that were kind of watching from home and when the, particularly teacher contract came up, because that was ballot vote, they came, drove down, but by the time they got here, it was already closed. Yes. So I think there was some confusion over how long, when you have a ballot vote, how long that should stay open.
Yeah, and that's something
And-
Drew can address, actually, as to the reasons why certain things get hour-long votes and certain things don't.
Yeah, so that, I think making that a little more clear, or even having the opportunity to, maybe it's not required to be open for an hour, but leave it a little open for those that, are maybe watching from home and, we're waiting for that to come up to then drive down to vote versus sitting through,
So
2 or 3
maybe-
hours to get to that point.
So maybe in the documentation, the leading up to the meeting, on potential votes on those articles, we can put an additional information that says if a vote is required, it will take this long. It will be open, the ballot box will be open for X number of time.
Yeah, I think the only requirement we have right now was to say if it required a ballot vote. Am I correct? Like, even on the,
It's not like the SAU vote, I don't think it has to be open for an hour.
it doesn't?
No, because
It's just
when we
when
had
the
our,
room is
when we
finished.
had
Yeah.
a vote at the town meeting, it was just waiting until everyone said, everyone who wanted to vote has voted.
Right. Bond votes?
Bond votes, I think, are an hour.
Bond votes are an hour. The SB2 vote was an hour, but was that requested to be an hour? So now I'm just not
No, I
recalling.
think that one's required.
It was
Yeah,
required to
I
be
don't
an
know.
hour.
There must be.
So I just made a note,
Yeah.
said, what are the rules around how long a ballot
Okay.
stays open? And my guess is that Gina knows.
Okay.
Drew
check that
knows.
too. It sounds like we could all use a good
Jim wasn't-
old-fashioned
Jim
meeting
wasn't
with our
even ours.
moderator.
Yeah?
We had the other guy. What was his name?
Oh, yeah, I forget his name, but I
I'd
know
never
who
met
you
him
mean.
before.
Yeah.
He was getting a kick out of the meeting.
I'll bet.
Okay, so, looking
Good conversation.
toward, yeah, I appreciate all of that input. Looking toward FY '26 budget planning, we would have a HESA contract to be
We will.
negotiated. The professional staff contract is San-Bernized and passed. There might be some recommendations from the facilities committee because the facilities committee is continuing, correct? Is there an enrollment committee in place?
No, not
Not
for the
at this
co-op.
district,
Not at this
okay.
time. Excuse me.
And I think we'll be looking at the biennial rate change for NHRS.
Yeah, I think this is that year, yeah.
So that would be coming in FY '26. It's, the NHRS rates are adjusted every 2 years and are in place for 2 years. So we'll be looking at that in FY '26.
We didn't see it this year, but we are now in open season on apportionment.
I'm sorry?
We're in open season on apportionment.
Oh,
It could have been as early as this past meeting.
great.
But there was a bill this year, but I don't know where it went, that was supposedly trying to change how apportionment got decided. I forget what that would allow you to have a vote of support without a change.
Yes, okay, I can look for that. Right, because that's
You
been,
mean a moral support vote?
No, that's why we did the $1 thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Maybe
it
we
says
could
is
do it
you
again, right?
can, that there was a bill proposed that would allow you to take an affirmation vote of it in its current state that would then reset the clock. But right now, the only vote that will reset the clock is a
Is a
vote to
change.
change it.
Okay.
yeah,
So, for example, if that had passed, or has passed, then it might be something that would be proactively brought forth to take the ambiguity out of the situation.
yes. Mhm. Okay, I'll do a little research on that legislation and see if it passes
And that
with
would vote
this.
would have to be a warrant article, or we could do it within the budget committee and the school board?
No,
No.
that's a major vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the last time we did it, it was a special meeting,
Yeah,
but it could be part of the warrant
It's,
as well.
it's been both. We've done it in, as part of the district meeting, and we've done it as a separate one.
Mhm.
But in all cases, we formed a committee relatively early to start the process.
Mhm. Great. Any other questions? Well, if anyone thinks of anything, we can certainly bring it up at another meeting. Certainly doesn't prevent us from coming up with new ideas as we move forward with our process. So Kelly, at this time, usually our May meeting is our food service overview meeting, and I appreciate you. I had run into Kelly at another meeting, and I actually thought I had a conflict for this evening, and I said, Kelly, I might need to change the meeting date. And then at the last minute, my conflict cleared, and I reached out to Kelly and said, Kelly, we're gonna actually need that presentation for the regularly scheduled meeting, and she turned it around in no time, and I sincerely appreciate your flexibility in doing that.
That's fine.
Because I did have, like I said, a last minute change to my own schedule, so thank you, Kelly, for getting that together.
Sure,
and,
no problem.
Turn it over.
Okay, so, I guess you can all see that. So this presentation, you guys have seen a lot of it before, so it'll be a review or a refresh. So the staffing structure of the food service department, Amy Cassidy is still our director of student nutrition, and we can never not have her. She is the best. And I supervise that position. We break down the percentages between all three districts in this way. The co-op has 45% of the expense and revenue and all, and Hollis has 30%, and Brookline has 25%.
Who is she actually employed by?
The co-op owns her. So when we are fully staffed, each school has one head cook. And in the case of the high school, there are 5 food service workers. We've had one vacant position for 2 years now. We haven't been able to fill that last one. In the middle school, we have 2 food service workers, and right now we have 1 position vacant. I think we have been fully staffed there, but it didn't last long, if I recall. And then we have 1 administrative support person that works 10 to 12 hours a week, and she is also split between all of the districts in those percentages. The program that we belong to is the National School Lunch Program, and there are certain things that identify that program, and one is that it's federally assisted. It is also available to public, nonprofit private schools, or public and nonprofit private residential childcare institutions, so they service all of those kinds of schools. And the primary focus is to provide nutritionally balanced lunches to children every day. And the benefits that the school has are we do get cash subsidies, we have USDA sourced foods, and there is a lot of training and resources and just general program assistance that's available. And in exchange for all of that, our lunches must meet the federal requirements, which are pretty stringent. And we also must offer free or reduced price lunches to eligible children. If you guys have any questions along the way, just let me know.
quick question.
Yes.
The number of children that need help, is that number changed since over the last year?
It fluctuates. There have been times where we've had a lot, other times not so many. I don't know where that stands right now. Percentage-wise, we didn't go over that, but I can certainly find that
Just
out.
curious.
So, and it's that percentage of free and reduced price lunches that contributes and impacts potential grant funding for
It does,
Title I
yes.
funds.
And that's why it's so
PSEA
critical
programs.
that families apply for that, because it can make a big difference in what we get for other kinds of funding, yes.
Everybody wins.
Yes,
And in the
absolutely.
case of COVID, it in certain aspects became a significant contributor to the ESSER funds
Oh, yeah.
that districts did or did not receive, because I would say across SAU 41, because the level of free and reduced price lunches is relatively low.
It is compared to other school
Yeah,
districts.
compared to
yeah.
other surrounding towns, it really did affect like the level of ESSER funding.
Oh, for sure. We got
districts.
hardly anything in the big scheme of things, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's three components, financial components to the food service department. The expense is made up of salary, food, non-food, and equipment. The revenue is local, state, and federal. And then we have a fund balance, and any revenues in excess of the expense are added to or subtracted from the food service fund balance. Each school can only have an average of 3 months operating cost in their fund balance. The challenges that we've seen in FY22 and FY23, these are the ones that we've now resolved, because they were significant at that time because of COVID mainly. We had severe supply chain issues where food was very inconsistent and it was much higher in cost. And then we also, the USDA funding, which is the surplus commodity foods, became very hard to get. And then the free meals equaled increased participation, which is great on one level, unless you're shorthanded, and then it's not so great. So the same time frame, these are the challenges that still remain in this year, and that's staffing. Both of our schools continue to consistently be short-staffed, while our participation has remained high even after COVID. The pay increases and the bonuses that we put in place have significantly improved morale, and I believe it has stopped us from being, in a worse situation with short staffing. And we continue to use our subs as regularly as they are available. Our cost of food.
And none of them want to consider to be full-time employees if they're like regularly employed as substitutes?
No, well, some of them start as substitutes and then they'll
And then
go
migrate
into a
over.
position. But a lot of those substitutes, they just want to be substitutes because they want that freedom to go, I don't want to go today, So that's what we try to get them, but. We still have a very high
familiar
cost.
with all of that.
Yes, yeah, you are. We also have a very high cost still in food and paper goods. They're higher this year than last year, as you might expect. Fruit and the food trays that they use have actually doubled over the last 2 years. And then anything for entrees is up at least 20% in the last 2 years.
Kelly? How's the co-op pay rates compared to our elementary districts?
The co-op is, I would say, leading the way right now. But,
We
there's,
were behind for a while.
we were, but we had,
So
the
that
school
just-
board got
it-
together and made that adjustment and extended the contract 1 year. And that definitely made a huge difference. I think we would have lost almost every person if we hadn't done that. Because, yeah, it was like riots in the streets were about to happen. Okay, so this is sort of a historical view of our meal counts, and it's broken into breakfast and reimbursable meals, which is the lunches, actually. So way back in FY10, we had 80,000 reimbursable meals, and now we have, I'm going to use FY23, we have 78,000, so we're pretty much at the same level, but you can see there's a lot of fluctuation in between those 2 years. And breakfast is kind of the roller coaster of all time here, because in FY17, we had 1,600 meal counts, and in FY23, we had 9,000, well, 10,000, let's say, and that's down from when it was free. Imagine 37,000 is what our very short-staffed food service departments were feeding kids in the co-op back then. And, oh boy, if you can read this, it's an eye chart for sure. If you look at this is our financial comparisons over the years, and in terms of revenue, you can see that it has increased and quite dramatically during those COVID years. And even now, we're still maintaining some relatively high revenues. And then as far as expenses go, you will see those expenses are more or less the same until you get to those COVID years, and those expenses, as you might imagine, would go up with the increase in participation. So this is also where you'll see the effects of the spend down plans that we had to go through the DOE. If you have too much money in your fund balance, then they're going to request that you do something to mitigate that situation. So you can see our expenses in FY24 for equipment was dramatic there, and that is the renovation that we had in the high school. And that has brought our fund balance, the last line there, if you'll see in FY22, it was 535,000, then it went up to 672, and now we're estimating that it will be in somewhere in the vicinity of 323,000. And it's because of that equipment that we are seeing that go down.
What's non-food?
It would be like paper goods
Because I see
or
that that's more than doubled
right.
from last year. And salary and benefits is up about 40%.
Right. Because we finally have more staff.
Yeah, and we're paying better.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering if there's anything, get any option with the non-food stuff. I know there's a lot of programs being proposed to change packaging and serving items. A lot of it's more around the idea of sustainability than it is around cost. But one of the things that there are is, I know, a lot of alternative materials now being proposed, and I don't know whether the state is supporting any of that or not.
Well, probably not with the USDA commodities, because that, we get what we get from the
You buy
government.
that stuff you buy from them, from the federal.
Right. And then we belong to a cooperative purchasing program. So again, we're kind of stuck with what is offered through that program, and we do save a significant amount of money by being part of that program. So I can say that we went from having a decrepit dishwasher that was never used in the high school to now we have a dishwasher. So we may be looking at the ability potentially of using trays instead of the disposable ones.
That's what I was wondering.
I don't know if that's been discussed, because this is the first year we've had it, and, you know, but it's certainly worth the conversation.
I'll ask my wife tonight.
What's that?
I'll ask my wife.
Sure, yeah, ask her.
And
Okay.
she's gonna say, are you volunteering to wash dishes?
I mean, we probably would have to hire a person to do that, so
There's
there's
also-
always a cost,
And
you know.
there's concerns about water usage too.
Yes, exactly. And the dishwasher we did install was probably not installed with the intent of doing that, so that
Have the
could.
kids wash their hands and
There you go. Okay, so here are some of the accomplishments from the food service department. We continue to have great reviews. Those reviews are every 3 years, and they continue to find no findings. Our health inspections continue to pass with praise. We've been able to increase our choices by quite a bit, and the a la carte meals, rather than the reimbursable meals, are really a big hit. And Amy tries to offer, you know, main meals, salads, sandwiches, as many different kind of choices as she can, given our staff. And she also tries to match what we offer to more of the like real world choices, the latest trends in the restaurants that we all go to. And the recipes she has standardized across all the districts, and that has caused all the schools to have more meals and sides that are made from scratch. And some of the examples that she has done in the co-op schools are burrito bowls, flatbread, smoothies, hibachi bowls, soy glazed green beans, and roasted buffalo cauliflower. And she also recently started sample days. At the middle school, they had jambalaya, and then at the high school, they had egg roll in a bowl.
Can staff participate? Is there like a staff menu that's different? than
It's
what's
not
offered to
different, I
students?
don't believe, so I think they are able to choose from anything here. But they don't have to worry about reimbursable meals and stuff like that. It's just an à la carte purchase.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do the cost of the meals, do the price of the meals cover the cost of the meals?
Probably not exactly, but that's why we get the subsidies from both state and federal. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we're making money, so I can't exactly tell
I'm
you.
just wondering, is it beneficial from a revenue standpoint or detrimental from a revenue standpoint to encourage paying customers in?
Oh, I see, for like the adults.
Yep.
Well, at this point, I would say it's a positive thing to have the adults because we are, at this point, the participation is high enough that we are making more money than we're spending. But that may not always be the case. Okay, so kitchen renovations, you've heard me talk about that. The dishwasher was a big one. We had this oversized, unused dishwasher, and it was unused for like decades. And we replaced it with a right-sized dishwasher, and that has greatly increased the staff efficiencies. We have hot food slides, which provide the ability to display a lot more food, which increases more choices for students and makes all that food more appealing. And there's an open merchandiser unit, which is great for cold grab-and-go choices to keep the lines moving. And the new serving line has presented the food in a much more appealing way, and the lighting really helps highlight the choices. So I think the students are getting a much better experience. And I'll give you some examples. So this is before, on the left there, the dishwasher system, I'll say, and it goes all the way around. I mean, I don't even have all of it there. And it was just taking up all this space and not being used. So now we've created a wall. That wall on the right there is a new wall. And this is the dishwasher sort of alcove, I'll say. And that has made the staff so much happier
So
than
is the
what they
dishwasher
were
the thing
doing.
in the far corner under the hood?
Yes, that is the actual dishwashing piece of equipment. And then on the left again is the old style serving line, and on the right is the new style, that thing in the middle there that's taller than everything else. That's the merchandiser, the grab and go. There's that black screen comes up during lunch, and there's a number of things that are meant to just grab and go, literally. So that speeds up the line a bit. And then if you see right next to it, I think that's the slide, the hot slide that has many levels there. So that's where they can put out a lot more choices than you
I
can
think
see.
you should consider having versions of this slides with the people in it and the activity going. Just to
Well,
show like,
But I wanted you to see the equipment. All you see is a bunch of people.
I'm impressed how clean it is. I mean, this is really good.
No, it is, it's great. And then the last picture here is just kind of a unit. There's a picture of that hot slide there, so you can just see the difference in the equipment is more appealing to, just looking at the equipment, it's more appealing. So that's what the kids are seeing now.
Is there any potential plan to do something similar in this building?
Well, this building has a lot more newer equipment and newer setup, so I don't know that it needs to be done now. I think, 5 years would probably be a good time to do something here in this building. So the FY25 challenges we have are getting our eligible families to do the free and reduced paperwork. The good news is that now they can do it online. So hopefully that will help us. I think that just happened like mid-year this year. So hopefully that will help us get more signed up. And then getting to and staying fully staffed. I'm sure you're sick of hearing that every year, but that's a real challenge. And then, of course, we have the continued high cost of food and supplies. And now what seems to be emerging is that we have really high negative balances. Some families are just not paying. And unfortunately, the way the rules go, we have to supply students, if they're there in line, they get a reimbursable meal, and we don't have a choice, whether they owe $800 or $200. We have to give them that reimbursable meal.
Right, they can't do the à la carte options.
They
though.
cannot do à la carte. That's the only thing that we can withhold.
So is there any way, I'm sorry, is there any way to differentiate people who are abusing the system from people who really need the support but they're not
Yeah.
applying?
That is really tough, and we rely on our student services to help us identify those students.
Yeah.
Sometimes the principals know, and if we do know, we do have some funds that we can pay their bills for them. Of course, if I did that with everyone, we would have no funds, but we do get donations in to help pay some of those bills, yeah. But it's
Yes.
really hard to know who needs and who doesn't.
Is there a policy or practice to, after negative balances have received a certain limit, to file like a small claims?
Yep, in fact, we got that through the system. Oh, I think it's either 1 or 2 years now, I forget. And I am putting that together right now as we speak, because I do have a couple of families that have significantly high balances.
I
And
think the way the process works now, I don't think it even necessitates you necessarily going to court. It's like online.
Oh, I haven't even investigated that, that's great, okay, excellent.
I think since COVID, a lot of things can be accomplished online by submitting the applications, and the review is done online, and
Wonderful.
things like that. I'm not saying it doesn't mean you won't have to, but
Sure, well, I'm willing to, so
Yeah.
that'll be a nice bonus if I don't have to.
Can I, quick question, the online application, is that something that is generated just for our district or our SAU, or is that a part of a larger program?
I think it's either state or federal.
Do you know if they have any online video tutorials for filling that out as part of it?
You know, I don't know if we
Because
do
if
or
they
not.
did, I think that's something that we want to publicize
Right.
heavily. A lot of times, people are really intimidated by the
Sure.
prospect of having to fill out forms, and if they've got,
Well, they can still do it the old-fashioned way too.
people
so-
really don't want to do that.
Right, I know,
Is-
and that is the problem, yes.
is there potentially a link to that application through the registration process?
Yeah, I believe there is. I know there, and, you know, we try to get the word out at the beginning of the year, all year long, about doing it. And in terms of collecting, we over-communicate about collecting these negative balances. And we also, part of that is to try to get families to sign up for the free and reduced.
So-
And there's a link there as well.
I'm laughing a little bit because the latest communication from Food Services caused, this email chain between my husband and I, because a letter came out saying we are encouraging all families to check their balances. And my husband and I both were like, what does that mean? What's going on? So, do you need to, should we be doing something about this? I'm like, no, I already checked. So the immediate reaction was, there must be something there for me to check.
Right,
Going like,
yes.
oh, we're fine,
You're
we're
not the
fine.
target, yeah, you're
We're
not the
fine.
target.
But just the change in that communication, and I said to myself, well, hopefully everybody had that same reaction.
Right.
Went in, checked their accounts as the end of the year is coming, and said, great, I'm getting money back because I have a graduating senior and no other child to use the funds.
Right.
Or, oh wow, I need to get something in just to get us, through these last couple days of school.
Yeah.
I think by now my son's used the balance, so I probably have to get some more money on his account. But just the change in strategy there was enough for this family to be like, time to log in and see what's happening.
Well, good,
because-
hopefully that's happening all over the place.
So I
And
really-
you'll
I
probably
like
get
that.
more of those as the year goes on, because we're really trying to push to get these negative balances down.
What's a high negative balance? A number, just give me a number.
I think my highest one right now is $825.
Okay.
Yeah, one family. So,
Is the information readily available as to what the thresholds are for qualification?
For the free and reduced?
Yeah.
I believe that when you apply online, that gives you all of
No,
that.
I'm talking about so that we could do something to publicize so people would be able to say, oh, I'm thinking of an overall PR thing that says, here's who's eligible, here are people that might be able to take part of it, you can apply online, it's confidential, blah, 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 essentially,
Not a bad idea.
to take the
Get pressure off of the
Yeah.
intimidation factor of.
and to put it in front of them that this is a service available to you. If you think you might be eligible, it's worth trying. You're not gonna have to stand up at a public square and do anything. The other thing is if people do have a positive balance at the end of the year of graduation, what happens to that balance?
About this time, maybe a little before this time, Tim and Patrick well, not Tim, it doesn't matter about the middle school. He will send out something that says basically if you have positive dollars left at the end of the year for your graduating senior, you kind of have three choices. You can donate it to, and that's how we get some of our donations. You can donate it to the food service. You can transfer it to one of your siblings if there's a sibling in the system, or you can get a refund. So.
Okay. Yeah, that was my point. It's nice if you give them the option of just rolling it in, and I don't know if it just says a donation to food services, or if we could.
Well, it says something about to help a family in need or
Okay.
something like that. Yeah, it
And
says
then the other
it.
thing is, you can say that if you're requesting a refund, please bring a wheelbarrow because it's going to be paid in pennies.
Haven't tried that one yet. Okay.
People will take you up on it.
I know. The pennies are worth more than a penny these days.
No
Yeah.
kidding. Okay, this is the
Precious
last
metals,
slide.
right?
Okay, lastly, these are the strategies for our future success, and the first one, and most importantly, is to become fully staffed. That's really a critical component. Now that we've redesigned the serving line in the high school, we are serving kids faster, and one part I didn't show you is the other half of where that dishwasher was is a window that goes up and down like a garage door, and that has always been there, but we have the rest of that room set up to be a real grab and go window, so that will also really speed up the lines, because kids that know that they just want those kind of things can go to that window. We just have to hire that one last person to make that happen. And then, our equipment upgrades have improved the variety, the food appeal, and it causes the students to be able to choose things faster, and that speeds up the lines. Our increase in participation, especially in reimbursable breakfast. You saw we went from 37,000 down to 10,000 in our meal count, so we want to try to get that participation, that particular target audience to increase. And then we also want to work on increasing our marketing, social media, that kind of thing. But again, we really need to be fully staffed before we can really tackle that kind of an endeavor. And then another one we'd like to go to is student and parent input as a forum. But again, we need to be fully staffed to devote the time to that. So, and that's it, I believe. Yep. Any other questions?
Great, thank
That
you
was
so
excellent.
much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
appreciate that. Moving on the agenda, the next item is the financial overview. Kelly?
Okay, you go.
Since you
Okay.
have the floor.
Okay. All right, so the story with where we are in the co-op on May 7th is about special education underruns and hiring, savings, and vacancies. Same story that you've been hearing, that the hiring, savings, and vacancies affects several of our lines as well as our benefits line, because if you have openings in your staff, you're going to have benefit openings as well. So those are the big stories. There are several other, ups and downs in some of the other categories, but at the bottom line is that we have about $1.1 million in underruns for, so far in FY '24.
Kelly, is
Yeah.
there, I don't recall speaking about a transportation contract lately. Are we,
I think that it's either next year or the year after. I'm not sure I remember which year, but it's coming up, yeah.
So what portion of that amount will be returned back to the taxpayers?
You're always way ahead of me, Raul.
yeah.
So the revenue, most of that revenue is related to the food service sales, and as well for the national or the federal and state money that comes in. So most of that we have to peel off, and as I mentioned in my presentation, that goes to the food service fund balance as well. So the bottom line there for the unreserved fund balance at this point is $1.15 million. Now, what we have to subtract from that is the needs that we have identified for FY '25. The maintenance trust and the contingency fund of $300,000 and $125,000 respectively were identified in our warrant articles and voted by the voters. And then our retained fund balance right now stands at $340,000. That is an amount I'm estimating because the school board has to determine that in August. So it could go up or down depending on where we are and what they want to do. So if it were $340,000, then we would be returning to the taxpayers $380,000. At this moment in time, that will potentially change. And remember that $200,000 of that is during the budget process is what we promised the voters
So at least
will
200
be
will go
returned.
back to the,
I'm sorry?
at least 200 will go back to the taxpayers.
If we have it, which it looks like we will, yes, at least 200,000 will go back. And so that, we did provide some information to the school board at the last meeting, some ideas for how they might want to spend the $180,000 that's there, and likely that balance will probably go up as we release some of the encumbrances that, for whatever reason, are not spent, so.
What were some of the items?
Oh, man. Do you remember?
I was gonna open that up.
Okay, good, because my brain
Yeah.
gets worse and worse on memory every year.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Which will flow into the school board discussion,
Oh, perfect.
unless anyone has any other questions.
Yeah, anything else?
No? So he's starting the school board.
He's going to
discussion.
start the school board discussion when he tells us some of the items that are
I was
under
gonna see if,
consideration.
I don't remember if it was in the list or not.
While you're looking, Tom, I'll
Oh,
just ask.
I think Andy might have brought that in.
Yeah.
Okay. Let-
I can tell you that really what it's looking to do is there are some items that are budgeted for FY '25 that if we have the money for, we would like to pay for out of this. Specifically, some of the facilities, the heating system upgrades in the middle school, we're looking at that. Some of the roof payments that are going to happen, and one of the reasons for doing that is we have a heads up that our special education expenses for next year are going to significantly exceed what was budgeted. So there is a hope that we can cover some of the necessary facilities activities, and a couple of investments I know they were looking at. There's some computer equipment that is scheduled, that we have our technology plan to replace X number every year, looking at maybe getting a little jump on that by paying for those, and a couple of, they're not called smart boards anymore.
Interactive flat panels.
Interactive flat panels. The smart boards are no longer essentially supported to to a large degree. The technology has moved on. That one didn't stick around very long, and now they're interactive flat panels. So there is a plan for upgrading to those. And there was one security. There was one. Was it the middle school or the high school? I don't remember which one. There was one security update with the cameras. Putting in,
Oh, yes, I
new
believe.
cameras. So, but the net effect is that they're not new expenditures. They're looking to essentially move some of the items that were in the, approved in the 2025 budget. If we have leftover money, we'll pay them, maybe do some of it over the summer, or at least get the orders in place to encumber the funds, so that we free up some money for what are anticipated to be unanticipated expenses, particularly in special education. Is that
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
accurate.
perfect, yes.
Before you proceed, Tom, I just had one last question for Kelly. Did we happen, I don't know if the district applied for any of the funds in the latest round of literacy grants?
Yes, we actually got them,
Great.
yes. So each district will have some portion. I don't know that I've seen that number yet, but,
Okay, oh,
Yeah.
great, glad to hear that. I know we were denied the last time, so I'm
Right.
glad
No,
that
this
they
time we
went
got it.
through. Great, thank you.
The other things that are probably worth noting is that much like what we have experienced with our staff salaries that we addressed in the recent contract, we are seeing that we are on the low side for the non-collective bargaining salaries in our school, particularly administrators, and it's not just the principals, but people who fall into those categories where they're hired as individuals. Some areas that are particularly noteworthy are jobs that have overlap in industry, IT management, counseling type things where there is easy transfer in and out of school systems. We're also looking at our building principals and assistant principals, and it's kind of a weird, weird's not the right word. It's kind of a different viewpoint, and it's one that Andy has been very conscious about making sure that we're keeping up, not specifically because of fear of loss, but knowing that there is going to be turnover, so that in a hiring situation, we're not blowing things out of the water. And the example given was an assistant principal who's not particularly senior person, but was hired in at a level that was higher than any of our existing assistant principals, just because that's the salary range. Our building administrators are, depending on the individual, in the middle to lower range of what's going on in the area, and there's a lot of vacancies. We think that we've got attractiveness, but the typical progression for a building administrator is to get their certification and look towards getting at the district administration level. We've seen that our principals have gone on to be superintendents and assistant superintendents. That normal path is a very easy move to make right now, because there's a huge shortage, and we have a lot of principals and assistant principals in our SAU as a whole that are very attractive to other districts. So we anticipate there is going to be movement. We have a relatively young staff as well. So we anticipate there will be some movement, and what we don't want to be in a situation where, in order to fill an opening, we have a situation where the pay would be completely out of range with all the other peers in the district. Like, sort of what we experienced with our our assistant principal hire. So this isn't, it's not that in 2025 we're gonna see a big jump. We're looking at all compensation, we're looking at the time, the times available as benefits, you know, the personal benefits. We're looking at working conditions, we're looking at a variety of things, but it's worth having in mind the fact that we have identified that our non-collective bargained personnel are not in a highly competitive pay rate right now.
Are those staff members issued annual contracts or?
The majority of them, a lot of the, I think the building principals have some multi-year contracts, but the others are all annual. And right now, most of them, the increases are contractual, and they're CPI with a limit of 2 to 4%. And with current inflationary practices, those have not been keeping up.
Some of the allied health professionals have 2-year contracts, so.
Do they? We are really happy with the staffing that we have, with the people that we've got. The other thing that's probably interesting to note is, we thought that a lot of people were waiting to see what happened with our contract, and at our our last board meeting, we had 4 resignations and 10 new hires.
That's a good trend.
Yep. And previous we had 4 resignations and 6 new hires. So what we are seeing is that we are getting we are in a more competitive situation now from the hiring standpoint. And I asked the question, and we're not seeing a substantial change in what we are going to pay versus what we had budgeted to pay. So it's a relatively revenue neutral situation, but we are fine-tuning our staffing in a positive manner.
So are there still a significant number of vacancies as we're looking toward the
What do
new
you
year?
consider significant? I don't know that it's double digit, but we still have a number of
Just
of
working
open
through them.
positions. But it was interesting, we authorized the superintendent to hire. Usually we don't do it until after June. We authorized him for the month of June because he says they're in a situation now where if someone comes in and they like the person, they want to make the offer right then and there. It's that competitive.
Mhm.
Makes sense? You gotta be realistic about the situation and do the best you can, right?
So we're continuing on.
Could you share the graduation date? I'm sure things are winding up for seniors and
Is that
Is
No,
it-
because I don't know
is
when.
it
it is.
let's,
6,
come on,
9?
Tom.
I think it's 6/9.
It's
is
on a
that-
Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday, June 8th,
Okay, that's it. Yeah.
sounds right.
Oh, graduation, I knew. I was thinking more what the last day of school is. I can't.
The
Oh,
last day of school,
that is the 18th.
yeah, that goes to the Tuesday.
And then this year we have 3 professional days at the end.
Right, yes, so the co-op staff has 3, so that 19th, 20th, 21st is when they would, Tuesday is the 18th, so I guess that puts them on Friday.
Mhm.
So are you going to keep us updated on, it's disconcerting to me that principals are underpaid, or, underpaid. You said on the low end. That's very disconcerting to
Mhm.
me.
Because of the nature of
I
that
mean, I understand.
conversation, there's limited, but certainly, you will see it. I don't know if the latest approved offers or contract amounts are public knowledge yet, do you know? We approved them at our last board meeting.
Yeah,
But I don't know if they are. I will assume that I will be able to update you at the next meeting.
Oh, definitely. I
Well-
think everyone has been told, but I'm not positive, so.
Yeah, so-
Well, let me just say that we've been down the rabbit hole of, because you've got a 2 or 3 year contract at 2 or 4%, we've been down that rabbit hole, and I'm going to assume that we don't need to go down it again, just because they have a contract.
Well, I'll tell you, there's two elements to it. One is that we took what we hope is specific action at our last contract review discussion with the superintendent's recommendations. But on a broader scale, a committee has been formed that includes 2 members of the school board and the building principals and the superintendent-elect to look at it on a broader scope of the entire package. And again, it's not just salary, it's
Yeah,
all the
okay.
elements of compensation.
I've said enough, thank you.
Great.
Could I ask a?
Yeah.
One question, the Farley building here, I'm real concerned about that. I think others are as well, maybe some aren't, but what is the district doing to preserve the integrity of our establishment here relative to the Farley building's operation?
Well, the first thing is we're still working on the land definition for this building, and there is a current proposal for a land swap between the school district and the town, so that we can get all the land that the middle school is on actually owned by the school district. And no, but, so we want to resolve that first, but they have been, the superintendent and assistant superintendent and the school board chair met with members of the select board to just let them know of their concerns. The problem is that the activity related to the Farley building is a bit nebulous, and there is no real direct path. We have made a request that any proposals that are given to the, I don't know if it's going to be architects or engineers, that they be asked to be in contact with us. We've asked the committee to come before the board, but so far nothing has occurred.
Okay, so it's on your radar, that's good enough for me.
It's on our radar, I just don't know, I'm not happy with the progress.
Good. I'm good that you're not happy, so that's enough. I got it.
I appreciate you looking out for my well-being, Tom.
Okay. Well, that concludes our agenda this evening.
Oh, you want to hear something cool, though?
Sure.
And this is, thank you, Mr. Hardy, who I think is associated with Brookdale Farms, he's been very active with the middle school. They're doing a big upgrade to the greenhouse, a whole new project, and they're trying to set it up so it'll be a year-round, so even when school's out, there'll be activities going on and producing produce and stuff like that. We sort of lost the activity going on through COVID and things of that nature, but they've completely cleared it out and rejuvenated it, and new plantings, and Mr. Hardy has come in and is working with the kids and the staff to teach them stuff. It's really exciting.
That's great.
Cool.
So
That's
maybe
great.
we'll have farm to table at the school.
Be nice.
Don't quote me on that, 'cause I have no idea.
We'll give them a chance to get it all together, so. Well, great, thank you so much. It was good to, we had kind of that little lull after the meeting, but it's kind of good to get back into the swing of things and, hear all the great things that are happening across the district. The meeting minutes do include, the school board agendas do include copies of the athletic director and each school principal's report. And I think some of the greenhouse
Yeah, it was in.
information was
Patrick
included
West's
in Patrick
report.
West's overview. So it's always a good reading prior to our meetings to take a look at that. So I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll look forward to a June meeting on the 27th. We usually take off the month of July, and looking at the month of August, our meeting would be a little bit earlier. The fourth week in August is August 22nd. So maybe in June, we can talk about, I'm not sure what people's vacation schedules look like, but it's a little earlier than normal. So right now, fourth week of August would be the 22nd, but it
So the meeting for July will not occur?
will not occur,
And June was 27th?
the 27th.
Okay.
Will that work, Kelly, with accessibility?
Wh-
Even though
which-
the district closed, but we'll still have like access here?
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Just want to let them know so they don't pack too much in here.
Right, good point. We'll
Yeah.
give him some fair warning on that,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay, so for the month of June, we normally do a facilities overview. So we'll look forward to that. The auditors will be here over the summer. I'm sure they'll keep you busy for a couple of weeks. And I think it's the August meeting where we typically have the auditor.
Yep.
Tim comes and reviews the prior year's audit, so not the one that would have taken place over the summer, but he kind of
Right,
gives us an
the one I
overview of where-
just have received recently, so
Yeah.
I'll get that out to everyone.
Okay, great. Process observer, I'll look to you.
I thought we had a very active meeting, good information, good presentation. And we're still under the 2-hour limit, so I think we did okay.
Great.
Thank you very much.
So at this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn at 8:12 PM.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
From Raul, seconded by Matt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0.
Thank you very much.